Hello, I'm Cover Killer Nation. Did you know that Atreyu invented metalcore? Neither did I! But Alex Verkaxis, their lead singer, certainly feels that that's exactly what happened. He stated in an interview with Rock Sound the other day that whenever fans come up and call Atreyu a metalcore band, he states, "We invented metalcore." Now, there's plenty of people that are no doubt going to circle the internet and let you know just how erroneous that statement is, based around the metalcore bands that were, sort of starting up the scene in the 1990s, giving the eventual metalcore scene its real big jump starts. Names such as Converge or Cave In or the like come to mind. These are bands that don't exactly 100% resemble what you got with the main scene, the main crop that appeared during the tail end of the 1990s and the 2000s. A little bit more of a rugged sound that has a hardcore or a more HXC punk edge to it. However, these are still the building blocks for what eventually would become termed as metalcore, and the term itself was already going around. I'm sure everybody's already told you that, so let's address why they didn't even invent mainstream metalcore, which is another argument that's been going around. Mainstream metalcore, can you believe that that's even a thing? But this is a statement that I've seen on a couple of posts ever since this story has gone live, and I have to simply state that that's not even accurate. The way in which mainstream metalcore becomes mainstream metalcore is due to two things. The first of which is the forebears, which are some of the bands that we just talked about. Either that or the sounds that eventually, when amalgamated together in the sonic witching brew, become the brand new sound. So the groups that were the influence for the early metalcore bands, the early groups that were implementing the sound somewhat without perhaps explicitly calling themselves a metalcore band, that's one thing that immediately can help catapult the scene. But then that's the second thing that you need. You need a scene. You need a group of bands that are very like-minded, and in order for it to become mainstream, there has to be a couple of bands that tail around with you. It's definitely not something where the Big Four would have survived, or thrash metal would have survived, simply based on Metallica alone. They would have been a unique principle, and certainly would have been a band that would have sounded very, very different than everything else, but it simply would have been a shorter fad, and would not have caught on and became a full-fledged heavy metal movement. The same is actually true with metalcore. In order for Atreyu to have been successful, they needed the help of bands such as Poison the Well, the help of bands such as Killswitch Engage, As I Lay Dying, and groups of that variety to come along for the ride. That way they could have the support that they needed whenever they went on tour. Now the sound had its proper sound blasting board. Now they could have 3 or 4 very like-minded bands go on tour together, and fans of one of the bands could find others, or fans of all of the bands could feel like metalcore was an actual culture, an actual portion of heavy metal society, as opposed to just a unique little idea that was being handled by just a couple of bands that wanted to try something new. So, not even whenever it comes to modern metalcore or mainstream metalcore was Atreyu even close to that. They were one of the more important bands in getting that cycle and getting that subgenre off of its feet, and certainly delivering it the mainstream attention, either that or the sales and recognition that perhaps it was hoping for, in order to now make it the bigger element, the bigger subgenre of heavy metal that it may be today, though admittingly, just like sales of In Our Wake, Atreyu's 7th studio album which just came out, it is kind of fading into obscurity a little bit, kind of recessing into the background. This is still a scene that Atreyu certainly helped build, but by no means was the genius behind it. But I want to know what you guys think about this. Do you think that Alex is actually right, and Atreyu helped to invent metalcore, or invented the sound on their own? Or do you think that Alex is just being a little bit cocky and doing this for relevance, trying to add more buzz to the Atreyu name to perhaps guide more people to In Our Wake to listen to the music and line the pocket a little bit more? Let me know in the comments below. My name is Cover Killer Nation, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Take care.